Welcome, ladies, to the NED Club in the City of London in association with POW TV to celebrate this unbelievably powerful day, International Women's Day. Tonight, I have with us some of the most incredible women that I know, inspirational, powerful, beyond. They are going to be sharing with me and you their stories of how they dealt with this pandemic in lockdown, and also what their plan is and their vision coming out of COVID-19 and how they're going to be supporting other women to get life back to normality. I'd like to introduce you to my first guest this evening, and that is the incredible Jackie Green. Jackie, like myself, has managed, and God knows how, to do a show, a series, a whole series with her husband, Andrew, and also another incredible woman, Julie Graham. She's here. And they did this show, which honestly had me in stitches for so many reasons. And it was called Dumb Breeding. So I'd like to introduce you to Jackie and ask Jackie how you managed, honestly, to pull this off.
We were really lucky. We had a great script. We had a great cast who were willing to get their kids to film them, their partners to play their lovers. And it was a total joy. It was probably the best project I've worked on in my entire career. So I was so lucky that the first lockdown went past without me really noticing, because we were so busy. We sent them an iPhone and some lights, and they just shot themselves. And it edited together so beautifully. It is really funny for women of a certain age. But Julie can fill you in more than me, because it was her baby, and I was lucky enough that she got me involved.
No, sorry, you dragged me into it.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be like that, was it?
Well, Andrew and Jackie came to me with the idea because I'd been developing the show with them, with a view to doing it in the normal world, whatever that is. And they came to me with the idea and said, look, why don't we use this time? You know, we've got everybody kind of trapped in their houses. We've got all these amazing actors and actresses not working. And I have to say, Jackie and Andrew saved my sanity, because, you know, I was getting to the point where I was kind of opening a bottle of rosé earlier and earlier and earlier every day, thinking, what the hell is going on in the world? So they kind of saved me and my liver. So I kind of had to adapt it to that. And then obviously then there was the backdrop of the menopause, which I thought was quite an interesting subject to tackle, especially during lockdown, where there was a lot of menopausal women stuck in their houses.
What was the biggest challenge of it, though, for you, Jackie? What was the biggest challenge of doing this?
The technical side of it, if something broke or someone couldn't turn a light on, how did you deal with that? Because you couldn't send anyone there. So we spent a lot of time with manuals, talking people through things. It just was really quite joyous. We spent a lot of time crying and laughing, and it was brilliant.
So on the flip side of entertainment, Kimberly, how did you cope? Because your tour was cancelled, wasn't it? Because you were supposed to go on tour.
It was honestly quite devastating for me, because not only was our tour pushed and pushed and pushed, but I had really made room for this Pussycat Dolls World Tour. I'd put lots of other work on hold. I just had our third baby, who's still very tiny. So to then go into the Monday that lockdown was announced was the Monday we were supposed to start rehearsals. And so it was quite devastating for us, you know, financially, work-wise, in so many ways. But just to keep my sanity, I just needed to do what I love. And my first passion is dance. So straight away, you know, 12 to 2 was the baby snap. 12 to 2 was the time that I was teaching dance drills live on Instagram, and just go back to what I love, just for my sanity and to feel like I was doing something of purpose and something for others, just to kind of focus on what I could do rather than what I couldn't. And I think thankfully dance really was that thing that could kind of just keep me grounded, keep me sane, keep me moving forward in a positive manner, because I have these 3 gorgeous children looking at me like, what's going on in the world now, Mom? Like, what do we do now? We're learning from a computer, handling homeschooling, and, you know, just making it happen, really.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed watching you. That's all I did was watch you, but it was fun. You were so all over the place. It was brilliant. Thank you for that. And Jane, how do you see the industry of getting back on its feet now? Is it going to come back quite quickly?
Well, I think actually it seems to me the industry's been after a very faltering start when everything ground to a halt. In fact, people immediately do what they do best, which is be incredibly creative and create new ways of working. But for me personally, I'm going to now talk as a mother. I've had literally this week the most wonderful news, which is my son, who is been an aspiring writer for 12 years. He's had a series commissioned by the BBC.
That's brilliant news. Good girl.
He's co-created it. He's co-written it. So everybody's got to watch it. It's called Proof. This is a real case of a show made from beginning to end in lockdown.
But there's been such great news come out of a load of stuff this year. So PIPPA is one of the most respected women in fashion. How's it affected the fashion world, PIPPA?
It's been so difficult with shoots and events, which is where the money's generated. Strangely, a lot of the advertising continued to shoot throughout lockdown. They went to different countries. The business side of fashion actually did quite well, to be honest. But what I quite liked is watching everyone be creative with covers for magazines to make it more real. If you saw, I mean, everyone saw it, but British Vogue's cover of all the key workers. I mean, how beautiful, and how that never would have happened.
Yes.
If we hadn't have been thrown into this situation. I mean, for me personally, everything shut down. Every booking I had, every event I had was done. I've sold in 90 days. I looked at my eBay account today. I've sold 126 things on eBay in 90 days because I had to get creative. And I've now got this bustling business on eBay that I never knew was even out there. You know, so go through your boxes, ladies, because people buy everything, like everything. So that's
a really good thing, isn't it? That's. I mean, I'm going to go through my house, get you round here soon enough. We can go through everything together. We're very creative in making do, aren't we? Really.
Yeah.
And I want to know. If that's all right with Emily. Emily works at Glamour magazine. She's the most talented writer I know. But how did it affect you getting stories, or how did it affect the industry from your perspective?
Well, I think what everyone's saying is sort of the key word was to adapt, obviously. As Pippa was talking about shoots, you know, we did manage to do quite a few shoots, you know, and they took longer because everything had to be COVID safe. But I think what it's proven is that, you know, that there is a lot more flexibility to working patterns. Women who've got children and childcare, I think it's just been so interesting how flexible we've proven to be and still get the job done.
Tanya's got a platform, Motherspear, that brings together all different women from all backgrounds, mums of all different backgrounds, ages, and helps and supports them. And they talk about a diversity of subjects. Tanya, what was the most poignant, the most thing that came up with women reaching out to you for support? What did you find most mums were having difficulty coping with, and what support were they giving each other?
The main thing that we were doing is we realized that the numbers of how many people we started to coach and how many people started to mentor, the numbers have completely risen. But I think that the most important thing that's come out of it is that the community has drawn together, and it's just how important it is to support each other in a positive way. You know, one of the reasons that we actually built the whole platform was because we couldn't find a space for mums that was actually positive and showing that it's okay to be vulnerable and okay for your children to see that you're vulnerable because you're being courageous, and it then gives them that kind of idea of me too, mum. That's giving them the conversation basically for them to say to us how they're feeling and get those emotions out. And that's for boys and girls, which is the most important thing, because there is that massive misconception, isn't there, that being a feminist, it's against men. And that's something that we're really trying to address in the community. well, a lot of us are raising boys. We're not disempowering men. We need men. We love men. You know, we have to teach our daughters to be strong and independent, teach our sons to be strong and independent, and similarly for both of them to show emotion and feel vulnerable.
Sadie, you are a multiple creative genius, but with health and well-being, how have you seen it with people taking more of an interest in the way they're working out, etc.?
I just started doing yoga every day with a friend of mine. She's in the theatre called, well, she's in the theatre Francis Raphael, and we started a thing called Yin and Tonic, which is basically doing kind of mindful, doing yoga to mindful beats rather than mindless beats. And we kind of, that was my kind of me getting through the day each day. We would connect with each other, and we would do it over Zoom, and we do it with our families. I had my son doing it with me. You know, when we were all locked down, I had like 10 kids with me, because my kids and my partner's kids and a couple of other kids.
Yes.
It was like a scene from Oliver. So I just got them to do exercise all the time, and yoga, and, you know, being healthy and vibrant and spreading the love with that, you know, it's very important. And I think the way I got through lockdown, apart from connecting with my children and other people's children and people around, was thinking about, yes, it was difficult and I could traumatize everything and find it really difficult, but thinking about the bigger picture and everybody else around me and how hard it was for, you know, not looking at it from such a personal level. It made me a stronger person to kind of get through things that were challenging.
I think it was really, really hard because we were always on. So there was it was unrelenting being at home all the time and never having space. So I think that women find that really, really tricky. It was like being on a boat rowing across the Atlantic and not being able to get off the boat. It was like all the hormones in the house and all the drama in the house. There was nowhere to kind of like get rid of that. So I think that women have really, really struggled. And I think that, you know, generally my area is kind of, I'm really passionate about pelvic health. And we found that so many women were like really struggling with their pelvic floor because it became so tight and it became so problematic because of the tension women were carrying in their bodies, and they stopped breathing properly and they were holding on to all this emotion because there was nowhere for them to release it. It's made people realize that they can't take their health for granted. And it's like, okay, we have to own this now. We have to understand the life stages that we're going through. We have to understand menopause. We have to understand our menstrual cycle. We have to understand why we're on the hormonal contraception we're on and what we can do about it. And we kind of need to get around that because there's nothing more important than our health. And I think that women have really started to own that, and we can see that in the business that we're now running, the interest we're getting from all females in understanding their bodies better, which I think is amazing.
Been a big wake-up call for health, hasn't it? Making us realise what's important. And for me, with the world of sport, was we've been working, myself and Judy, and the lack of women in senior positions in roles in sport, for me, was actually shocking. I really had the most unbelievable eye-opener that I've ever had in my entire life. I really thought I'd met the glass ceiling, but I never encountered what I'd witnessed in sport. The way that the sport's been affected for women in these times, do you feel we've gone back in the leaps that we've made over the last few years?
Yeah, for sure. I think pre-COVID, we were probably in the best position that we'd ever been in. There'd been a lot of momentum building over a number of years. If you look at England, football, rugby, cricket, netball and hockey, the women's teams are among the world's best. And as soon as performances become world class like that, and you're competing for the biggest prizes in sport, they become eminently watchable. And once they become watchable, they become televisible, if that's a word. And then they become sponsorable, and it opens you up to all sorts of different markets and opportunities. In some of the things that have happened, you see Six Nations Rugby, for example, went ahead, the women's was cancelled. Boys academies, football academies were allowed to continue to train, girls were stopped. So it's really important that we keep our foot on the gas. And the series that we created, Rose, which was your brainchild, and you drove it and you made it happen. And I thought I worked hard, but I have never seen anybody like you. You are a force of nature. But you created this incredible series called Driving Force with 10 of Britain's most successful sportswomen. And I just got to chat to them. I had the easy job and I absolutely loved it. But what it allowed us to do was not just raise awareness of the incredible achievements of these women, but to talk the backstory. It's had such a great reception, and it's led to a lot of talking points, which I think already I've seen a few things where I think, I wonder whether Driving Force had a little hand in raising awareness of that, something that I've seen a little change in. So we have to keep our foot on the gas, and the visibility is absolutely crucial. You know, we have to be seen. If you can see it, you can be it.
That's our motto, isn't it, Judy? But of all the incredible women where we filmed in Driving Force, and the women that we're filming in the Middle East and in America, Natasha, what a woman. You're training now, coming up for a big fight. How did you keep your focus with a beautiful daughter? How did you, because she comes to the gym with you and sits in the ring while you're training. You know, it's amazing what Judy and I witnessed.
Obviously, the baby's of school age, and she normally goes to school, you know, she's in after school club where I pick her up a little bit later. But when we went through lockdown and there was nowhere else for her to go, she had to come along with me, and it was such a special camp because she was so involved. You know, we'd skip together. She gives me water in between rounds.
Love it.
She's counting my reps as I do them, and Joe's saying, make sure that she does them. And it also was very hard because then I'm you know, you come back and you've still got a million jobs to do. For years, I've tried to get her to be quiet and sit still, and she actually really enjoys meditating. So that was just happened to be something that we can both do, just to have a little bit of time and space to ourselves, and she enjoys it as well.
I love it. You're going for a world championship fight. You've got your daughter in the ring, meditating, zenned out. She needs to be going up to see Auntie Sadie Frost. I just want to go to a mum. How have you been dealing with lockdown? How have you been supporting Natasha? And what's been going on in your life in the months we've been prisoners?
I think it's hard, isn't it? Because everything you're doing is at home. You're working at home, you're sleeping at home, you're eating at home, your family's at home. But I think one of the things for us, we've got such a big family, and we have a family chat, a WhatsApp group. And as you know, I'm one of 10. I've got 10 brothers and sister, and we've got 49. My mum's got 49 grandkids and 32 great grandkids. So we're known as 2 Jonases every year. So we have a fun. So we've always got fun things going on in our family chat. But going back to Tasha, for me, if she'd come home and said to me, oh, Mum, I want to be a ballerina or a dancer, I'd probably roll my eyes and start laughing. Because she's always been that type of warrior. But one of the things I will say, I think what makes her, for me, a warrior is because I've instilled in them that as long as you try your best, I don't care where you come in a race. But don't tell me the teacher gave me a medal because I come 10th and you just bounced her across the line with your friend giggling and talking.
I think as a mum, that's something I've heard Judy say as well. But even Kimberly, all of you women here that have got children, and even as women, we can only do our best. And when our best is our best, that's enough for everyone. And if it isn't, we don't want those people in our lives anyway. I'm going to come to everyone in a minute, but Kelly, she was and is one of the greatest boxing promoters of all time. How have you seen female sport go back in boxing?
Yeah, when I was at the height of my promotions, as obviously in another gender, female boxing was not really big in boxing. You know, I had a couple of females that approached me. I approached the TV companies and they just shunned it away. So obviously I showed no interest in it, but I've seen it develop, but I still think it's not being developed right. The British Boxing Board of Control, I believe, are only playing lip service to women's boxing because they will not allow women to fight for a British title. A bit like Judy said, it's been put back on the back burner a little bit. They're not getting a chance to develop their career, and I think this is really unfair. And also, I mean, myself just going back into boxing has been quite a shock. I have not shown the same respect as I was as Frank Maloney. And that one boxing event, I was questioned about something, and I had to turn around to the British Boxing Board of Control official, and I won't say their name, and I actually complained about it. And I went, can I tell you something? I might have modified my outside and changed my appearance, but I haven't had a brain transplant. I still hold 35 years of the best knowledge of boxing. And like, So I think you should show a little bit more respect to me. And, you know, I am finding it hard. As you know, I'm hopefully working with the Ned Club to bring an all-female tournament once we can get back into the public, and it's getting nearer, thank heavens.
We'll have Rosie there, the front row there on that. She's a member at the Ned as well. Tasha, tell me, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, Judy said it was the visibility, and now everybody is kind of behind. We've changed that narrative of, oh, women can't box, but because they've seen so many good fights. So now that barrier is breaking down, now we're getting to the next one that we need to break down and you know, clawing out. But because we were seen and people enjoyed them fight, now people want to see them again.
2012 was groundbreaking in that it was the first time that 50% of the athletes were female, and now any new sports coming into the Olympics have to have equal participation, which is a real positive, but it's been genuinely tough. So I think the Olympics is going to be very interesting in Tokyo. There hasn't been the emphasis that we put either on disability or women. So I'm generally hoping that those that have a voice, like Judy, use it to keep making the point that we need to keep promoting those top female athletes. And I think financing sport is going to be tough generally. People have less money to spend because of the pandemic, and we just have to continue to fight to give the reason to promote and support women's sport. But survival is going to be the key word for a lot of female sports, I think, over the coming months.
Ruth, I know from personal experience that the company that you work for really does go out and support female sport. I think it's one of the few companies that I know that actually puts their money where their mouth is. And why do you think it's so slow for brands to come in and support female athletes?
I think it's because most brands look at a quick return on investment, and actually that process of looking after people, getting in with athletes when they're up and coming and kind of supporting them through their whole career, it's a much longer point of view, and not a lot of brands will do that. But I think it's massively changing. You know, I think actually the pandemic has sort of made brands take a bit of a step back, and just say, you know, why do we exist? You know, what do we need to be communicating to people? What's our purpose? And also, how do we give back to society? Because the expectation there with brands is now so much higher from the people that are buying from them. I think the world is kind of slowly changing, not fast enough.
No, it's not. Can I just go on to Christine Bloomfield, an incredible woman. She's also just with UK Sport become one of their ambassadors for, can you tell us a little bit about that, Christine? How are you going with female ambassadors?
Basically, it's a women's leadership course, and there's 19 of us. It is the most incredible experience I have had thus far today. I'm 53, and I thought I'm not going to get any opportunities, nothing's going to come my way anymore. I've met my master coach. So my master coach is a female. Up until this point, all my role models have been males. It's made me realise, you know, that I can be a leader, I can be effective, and I can be successful. In our sport, it's very difficult to be promoted as a female. And if you're confident and you're articulate and you know where you want to go, they don't like that. And I think it can be quite threatening. When I got this course, I made a decision to myself that I am going to be the best coach, one of the best coaches in the world. Now, whether everybody believes it or not, it's irrelevant. That's my vision, and that's what I'm going to do. I want to get 3 of my athletes to the Olympics this year. That's going to be challenging, but I'm going to do it. I'm sorry, I talk too much, sorry.
No, do you know what, Christine? You're a bloody inspiration. I adore you. I think you're just amazing. Don't we think so, ladies? She's just fantastic. What a role model she is for all of us. I love you. She's brilliant. I'm proud to know her. I want to just really know, with Help Refugees, how are they coping in this time? Because they're forgotten. It's the very bottom of the list now for getting support and help, isn't it?
Globally, that it's not just the virus and the pandemic which is having such a devastating effect on people, but there's all these other unseen consequences. So firstly, for families who are living in refugee camps, they're living in tents, There are women who have got their multi-generations of families living in a tent. They're all in closed spaces. Then on top of that, services have had to be closed down. So education spaces, community spaces, distributions, all of these things. Plus there's just so much funding needing globally for all the different inequalities for medical care, all of these things. So there's less funding available. But the public have been so generous this year. Actually, it's an interesting fact is 80% of our donors are women. And
really?
Yeah. And I would say when you go and meet projects as well, they're more often than not led by incredible superstar women and women from the communities often who've been through the journeys themselves. We've made a commitment to fund 50% of our partners, and we ended up raising $15 million last year, and that is just
well done, girl. Well done.
Although people have had a really hard time and going through so much, I think it was Sadie said, it makes you think about others who aren't as fortunate as us. And so, you know, people have been like, we're so lucky to have our homes to be in during this time, and there are people that don't.
Must be awful. It must be. I mean, we're very blessed.
We are
very blessed. Samantha, this incredible woman, can you tell me exactly what you've been up to?
I describe myself as the Del Boy of the disability community, which basically means I've got lots of different fingers and lots of different pies. So I've been shielding since last March. I've probably left my home 20 times. As a disability campaigner and an activist, weirdly, the dynamics change because, and I say this without, you know, I don't want violins or anything, but for disabled people, lockdown is 365 days a year. Do you know what I mean? Like every time I leave my house, I have to think, is there going to be an accessible bathroom? Is there a drop curb? I'm a wheelchair user. Can I independently get from A to B? So a lot of disabled people are like, hang on a minute, this is like our territory. We know what lockdown is about. So during the first lockdown, I got inundated with people going, Samantha, please help us. We don't know what to do. We can't go out, and what's going to happen? I'm like, I'll tell you my secrets, but it'll cost you. You know, so I definitely had this influx of people asking me, and it was really empowering as a disabled woman, you know, who's often marginalized, who's often never given a platform, never given a space to kind of vocalize how disabled people live. And don't forget, you know, 1 in 6 of us has a disability. I feel like very much I've now got much more allies, advocates, to really understand what it's like to live a life as a disabled person. This will make you laugh, Rosemary. As a performing artist and as a a creative, that kind of fizzled out a little bit, which you know everybody was feeling. But then randomly, Boy George messaged me, random, and he was like, I'm a big fan of yours. Can you work with me? So I've been like filming a music video on my phone for Boy George. So it's really
only you would do that. Kimberly, are you looking anyone else for the Pussycat Dolls?
Oh, you know what? I tell you, you're not having my wheelchair. It's mine. All the qualities that make me a proud disabled woman, being resilient, being spontaneous in the sense of I've got to think on my feet, you know, being creative, that's all proven extremely valuable during the pandemic. And I really, really hope, you know, when we go back to normal, my aim as a campaigner is I hope that everyone here today will become an advocate for the disability community, because actually really sadly, and I don't mean to bring down the tone, but, you know, we've just been told that 60% of deaths from COVID were disabled people. And that for me is a disabled woman who's been shielding, who has now been vaccinated, hurrah, you know, don't get yourself jabbed, literally being like a bit like Rapunzel, trapped in a tower, not being able to leave, not even being able to get exercise, you know. So
you look like a very glamorous Rapunzel to me.
Look at the roots.
You don't want to see my roots. We need to get Jane Lush round to your house to do your hair. She's the best. That one. I want to come back to that though. Maria, how have you been getting on in your corporate world? How have you been adjusting to working and making these deals and talking and making decisions at home?
seems really insignificant compared to the women in this room. But you know, I've always been in finance, always been in the city, and I'm a headhunter. I'm in recruitment, right? So I'm joining dots, I'm connecting people. But what I will say is there's a theme that runs through it, and we are extremely resilient. We show resilience, whilst at the same time behind it, women also feeling everything. We feel everything. We fix our family, we fix our friends, we check in with friends, we make sure everyone else is okay, and then last of all, we check in with ourselves. But there was an interesting trend, and it's gone a bit 360. Now we're talking about going back to work. But I had a lady interview an American client last week who's currently in Hong Kong, and she wants to move back to the UK. And she said, "Oh, how are you with flexible working? You know, can we still do that? I've got a young family, I'd like to do that." And this Mal interviewee, MD, said to her point blank, "No, I don't think that's possible." While sitting at home in his home office interviewing her, and she told me this, and I was really taken aback. But I've had it again from another client. I've heard it again from somebody else. So it's almost like a lot of the people in finance seem to think we're just all going to go back to normal work. And it's so not the case. And I speak to a lot of guys working at home, enjoying being there for their kids, enjoying that family connection, realising they worked 12-hour days and didn't connect with their family. And that worries me, that I think companies are not prepared for what people really want. And there's been so many surveys, you know, on the internet, on LinkedIn, and it's very clear there's a high percentage of people, some don't want to come back to work, most people want flexible working.
Because you can work anywhere now, can't you? I mean, Rosie, how have you been dealing with your work from home? You've got a very responsible position in what you do. Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And look, this is a really poignant sort of get together for me, because just before the first lockdown, we did one of these shows that PIPPA very kindly hosted with myself, Emily, Samantha, a few other people as well. And I had literally at that point just quit a really high powered city job. And, you know, a lot of people are like, "You're mad, why are you doing this?" But I have 8-year-old twins, and one of them was diagnosed with ADHD. And I had never spent more time with them than my maternity leave, and I only took 4 months and went straight back to the trading floor, right? And you can imagine what a trading floor is like: big, noisy, lots of shouting, all that kind of stuff. And I really felt at that point that I really needed to just have that time with the children and just be a mum for a while. But then I was approached by one of our industry bodies, and it's one that's very closely involved with the Bank of England, looking at kind of financial infrastructure, but particularly around culture and conduct. One of the key themes that's kind of arisen in recent years during finance is that the culture is a really important vector for good outcomes. And some of the outcomes that we have had in recent years, and you can name a number of scandals, have been incredibly poor. So one of the things that they've talked about isn't just tone from the top, but it's how you treat grassroots staff and how that culture cascades up. So I was, and I was really deeply honoured. I was asked to be the chairperson for their COVID response committee, which looked at the complete inversion of, you know, financial institutions' working models, and everybody worked at home. And a number of the big trading firms have actually said this has been some of our strongest year in terms of you know, financial and performance and customer service, because of all this energy in the markets responding to it all. And actually what's been proven across this time is that people actually genuinely want to do the right thing, and they want to feel supported and empowered to do it. When we look at some of the historic facts, and Maria will know this as well, because she's one of the best headhunters in the city and has worked with so many people across the board, you see a massive drop off at a certain level in the female population because they start to have kids, and because it's not compatible with childcare arrangements and things like that. But if we now get to a point where we can say, look, people can actually work from home.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And it's incredible. I don't think we're there yet, because there's still some narrative, much as Maria said, where people are like, no, come 21st of June, everybody's back in the office. There is, though, a surprising number of firms that are talking about that's all well and good. We're not necessarily ready to go back until 2022. And even then we'll be staggered and phased. So it has been...
Right. That's a good thing that's come out of this, isn't it? For me, being able to work from home. I love it. Zoe, did you start a new business in lockdown?
So in March, before we went into lockdown, I got COVID really badly. And I was bedridden.
Bless you.
3 weeks, literally thought I was going to die. It was like touch and go. Sadie had my son went and stayed with her. That's one of the kids that went, and actually was a really good thing looking back now, even though it was really scary and I was on my own. one thing was like all my women were amazing. You know, they took my kid, they sort of dropped me food off. They were just, I mean, amazing.
That's Sadie Frost's the one, isn't she? I love her. She's give her a clap, Sadie. We love Sadie.
Because I've just been such a go-getter, I've just, you know, especially because art's a bit of a man's world as well. I've just always, and when you're self-employed, you're always having to think of the next thing, and
of course,
put this show on, put that show on, and it's just like great. And also teaching art, because I teach Centre Point and with disadvantaged children, so I just was like so thinly spread. And this just forced me to just do nothing. And then in October, I joined up for a course and I'd forgotten about it. And then in October, I started feeling a bit better. And I started training to be a therapist and art psychotherapist. I finished the first year of my course in July, and I don't do anything until next February. So I'm going to put on a show. I've got a neon show and light show. And
are we invited, all of us, please?
I will be, definitely. And the good thing about art and shows is that you can really do it well online, because you just put it up in your house or a building and you can film it. I mean, it's not quite so good, but it's lights and words, and so you can get a good feeling.
Portia is doing the same. What have you been up to in lockdown? Because you started a new business as well, didn't you, of sorts?
It's made me put my thinking cap on, which I think because I left school at the age of 15 and I started modelling at full time, and I didn't really go through that channel of how I'm going to make a living after modelling. And this pandemic, I'm quite thankful, if I'm honest, because it really did make me have to sit and think, how am I going to support my children? I work a lot on Instagram, so I had to really think about how I was going to bring money in. And I accidentally started a happy hour. Guys, like, come on, last summer, there was a lot of rosé being poured, and I was enjoying it. And so I started making margaritas on my Instagram. It started to pick up quite a nice sort of rhythm to it. And it's you know, I've been collaborating with brands, and now I've started to introduce guests as well. It is now, I think, well, it's my job, and I really, really enjoy it. And also I'm so inspired by it, and I've never felt this sort of drive before. And it's really made everybody come together every Friday. You know, I have my crew on Instagram, and they're all there waiting, ready for the cocktail. And it's just sort of, it just makes me feel so, so grateful for that support. And I love it. I'm very grateful.
Give us an international women's cocktail.
Do it now.
What is the best one to make? Yes.
The best one to make. I mean, you can't go wrong with a margarita, like factual, because it makes everyone happy. But if you're not drinking alcohol, it's my lemon sherbet gin fizz. And it's basically, you can take away the gin and you can just, like, it's topped with bitter lemon, and you would not notice the gin's not there. That's a really good one to make. And that's going to be going out on the Mother's Day weekend. So basically International Women's Day week as well.
Fabulous. We're going to keep watching. You've got to go and watch what she does. I swear, I'm addicted. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for entertaining me through lockdown. It's been great fun. I think that all the women on this platform this evening in a group, we should all get together at the Ned Club, because every single one of the women on here tonight is inspirational, lovely, beautiful souls. So we can go out, and I don't get drunk, but I can assure you I am actually
we're gonna get drunk, really drunk.
I'm going to be carried out of that by Greg on a stretcher.
You're not having my bloody wheelchair, woman.
I will, and I swear to God, I'm so over the moon. This has been brilliant, hasn't it? Just been bloody brilliant. Thank you. Good night, and God bless, and take care of yourselves.
Thanks, Rosemary. Well done.
Thanks, Rosemary. You're an inspiration, Rosemary.
No,
thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Living legend. Thank you. Big love.